Hi, my friends. This is your friend Sanjay Madhav. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about some of my recent travels to India and some of the sights and things I've seen that I would like to just talk about, but also I think it'll give you some recommendations should you be interested in making a trip. I've had a chance to go 3 times now in the last 3 years for various reasons. Initially, I went because my 94-year-old grandmother, who had cancer for a few years and organ failure, had passed away. So I really needed to go for that, to see her before she passed away. And but she has since passed away. But during some of the subsequent trips, I've been able to see a lot of cool things. Certainly not all of India. India is a vast country, and with very diverse terrain, from the Himalayan peaks to the Indian Ocean coastline, with history reaching back 500 millennia. There's so much to see you and learn about and research, and you could learn about history like the Mughal Empire and the landmarks associated with that. I strongly recommend going to New Delhi and looking at New Delhi's Red Fort complex. It's massive. There's I think a Masjid Mosque that is part of that, or that's also become iconic in the area of Agra. Of course, the Taj Mahal mausoleum. People call it the Taj Mahal, but it is a mausoleum. Historically, was built for that emperor's wife as kind of a tomb. So that's a lot of you know the story about that, but it's quite different from seeing the pictures online, which are very amazing, and then actually being in front of it like this, standing there looking at it 100 feet away, and then knowing the history and the stories that lie behind it. Really amazing experiences. I've had a chance to go to the Ganges River. I've actually taken... I actually bathed in the Ganges River. I laugh because it's almost a health risk. It's so toxically polluted, but at the same time, it is. It's a very spiritual and what's the right word? I'm looking for. It's a legendary spiritual spot to congregate, and you can research the Ganges and why that is the case independently on your own if you're interested in it. I also, since I've taken up yoga in the last couple of years, started exploring some of yoga there and the yogic practice and meeting yogis specifically, and those were very interesting experiences and interesting characters. But learning about the history of yoga and the yoga centers that are based there, I did get to actually trek the Himalayas. Thankfully, I'm young enough and fit enough to be able to do that, but I mean, these are all once-in-a-lifetime experiences, folks. I will probably never get a chance to do quite these things again in my life, but there's so much to see. Like I said, I mentioned the Red Fort in Delhi, massive and made of like red stone. Taj Mahal, a lot of people know of. I'm not sure if a lot of people know of the Amer Fort, the hilltop fort and palace that was built in the 16th century. There's a lot of other things to see and do. There's really something for everything. One thing I do every time I go to India is I visit a place called Goa, which actually you may find interesting, has a Portuguese history. And to this day, they primarily speak Portuguese there, and it's a Catholic religious background as well in India, but it's also so it has its own cultural background and heritage, different from the rest of India. It's fascinating, it's interesting. One great thing about Goa is really some of the beaches are amazing. Maybe the best beach I've ever been to in my life. It's known for that. When you go to Goa, every time I go, at least the last couple of years, you will encounter a lot of Europeans. Europeans use it, visit there heavily as a beach destination, basically, for them. You'll meet a lot, particularly Western Europeans Germans for sure, people from Holland for sure, Amsterdam, and a number of other countries in that region. I tend to get a little bit more hippie type, super cool people. I've made some really awesome friends. A lot of Germans that I've hooked up with in Goa. Great place to party. If you're into the music scene like EDM, that's not my taste, but a lot of my friends are into that. There's some of the best on the beach EDM concerts that take place there. But the beaches are great. And a lot of the beaches are nudist acceptable or topless as well. So you get that whole vibe to it too. So much to see and do in India. It's a shame that some people think of it as a third world country. I think a lot of people have become aware of certain aspects of the country in recent decades because of it being such a place with a population that is very technically savvy and contributes a lot even to the U.S. economy through technology and outsourced companies and talent that's available there in the field of technology. But you and I know a lot of Americans too, by the way, who've been to various places in India. It's not at all uncommon these days because their companies send them there because they have offices there or employees there, and they generally tend to like those trips. You're certainly going to learn a lot. They may not like the smells in some of the places, but they're going to get quite a learning experience. One of the things you'll see a lot of too, outside of what I mentioned, which are mostly the tourist attractions, is you will see a lot of poverty. Country of 1 billion people with a very thriving economy, mostly from foreign dollars coming in for commerce and for taking advantage of the technical knowledge that's available there. Is naturally going to have a population of that size to have a lot of poverty. So some of the train rides get very interesting when you take the train, let's say from the south, like Bangalore, up into Delhi. You're going to pass a lot of shanty towns with a lot of villages and a lot of mass of poor people. So if you're interested in doing something altruistic, you can combine that with your trip and do some good things and meet some poor people and help them out. I actually had the opportunity, I made the opportunity to actually go to Kolkata and spend some time seeing and even volunteering at the Mother Teresa Hospital of the Sick and Dying. You can research it on your own what that place is and what they do. You can volunteer. There's actually a waiting list. You meet people from all over the world, a lot of Europeans, a lot of people that have come from money, by the way, a lot of people that are very financially successful, but not necessarily happy, have volunteered and spent significant time there and developed acquaintances and friendships to help develop a more spiritual component in their life and be more altruistic and gain some additional joy and happiness and in their life that things and money can't necessarily provide. So you're getting an abundance of people, of backgrounds, of different varieties and different stories. You're going to get amazing amount of sights. If you're in Mumbai, it's downright overwhelming. I thought Mexico City, I thought Manhattan was crazy years ago. Then I went to Mexico City. I thought that was crazy. Compared to Mumbai, they pale in comparison. The sound, sights, smells, population, traffic, cattle in the streets. I mean, you name it. And yet it's so functional. And it's a huge center of commerce, even for American businesses that have operations and employees there. But just know that it's a lot of people. I don't know where you're visiting from, but I don't live in a town that has that, and I choose not to, that has that population density. But I think it's the largest city actually in the world per capita, extremely dense. People living on top of people. Quite an experience. Good luck traveling in Mumbai, by the way. It'll take you an hour at a minimum by taxi to go 3 miles. You can't move. You can't move anywhere. People will be walking by you. You're sitting in a taxi cab going, we're not moving. So that is one of the more frustrating experiences, but it's a sight to behold at least once in your life. Like I said, some things you got to just have on your bucket list. You'll learn a lot about the world and about life and the lives of people outside of you and your household that you didn't even realize existed and thrived on this planet. But a lot of sightseeing, tremendous amount of history, culturally, religiously, spiritually. I mean, like I said, going back millennia, some of the oldest cultures, oldest scriptures, oldest religions. If you're into learning about that, it's very, learning it here and reading the books and going online versus learning it there is a completely different experience. And by the way, the South, which is where my family is from, southern part of the country, around Bangalore, Mysore area, the southern part is really known more for temples and tours of temples. It doesn't have to do with anything religious. You don't have to believe in Hinduism or anything else to go there. The temples themselves are quite an experience to travel between them and do the tours and see how they're built. I'll try and dig up pictures for you and post them, but you have temples that are thousands of years old that are fairly ornate in how they're decorated outside, and it's all hand-carved stone. Some guy toiled away thousands and thousands of hours, I'm assuming as a duty to his God, to carve this amazing rock that became this ornate exterior of a temple, just hand carving stone. It blows your fucking mind, someone had the patience and the desire to do that. You used to have a lot of temples that were also very jewel encrusted. Actually, the Taj Mahal used to be one of them, but there were many others that had rubies and all kinds of things decorating the outside. Of course, today, if you see any of that, they're now fake pieces of glass. All those original precious gems have since been stolen and looted. Probably either by the British when they left occupation, or perhaps just by opportunists and poor people in the area. Who knows? This is like thousands and thousands of years ago when this happened. So, but anyways, that's my shorter clip today about some of my recent experiences in India. Really, and the nature, you can get away from all the people in the countryside and the nature and the waterfalls and things like that are available also mind-blowingly beautiful. Some of the most beautiful fields of flowers, like in Pondicherry, for example, there's no botanical garden you're going to find in the world, and I've seen some of the best with thousands of different kinds of subspecies of flowers. You'll see things in India that'll just blow your mind. So it's a large country, huge amount of diversity, from rich to extremely rich to extremely poor. One of the saddest things actually I've ever seen in my life, that's still ingrained in my brain. Until I acquire Alzheimer's or die, it's not going to probably leave my memory. I actually remember, and it's particularly causes a feeling of guilt as a middle-class individual in America seeing this, but going to the side of the road with traffic going by, and there's pollution and there's cow poop and there's everything else pollution-wise going on around. And I mean, one of the worst things you'll see, one of the worst things I've seen, actually I've actually seen worse than this, but this is pretty bad. Chico wants to be part of the story. Okay, I'll take you to India next time, since now I travel a lot on planes with my dog. But what I was saying is, one of the sadder things I've ever seen actually is on the side of the road, just a young mother, literally on the side of the dirt road, traffic running by, a young mother sitting on the side of the road with her infant child, eating rice off the side of the road, literally off the dirt, with all the pollution mixed in and the gasoline and bacteria and you name it, it's in there, and it's probably just someone that tossed it out the car of their window, and they found it, and that became their meal for the day. So that's another thing that you can acquire from a trip like that. There's a lot of I hate to try to read general labels on things, but there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad and there's a lot of in between. It's true for every place, right? But there's a lot of really amazing things that you can see there that are in the visuals and architectures, old palaces, histories, thousands of years old, thousands and thousands of years old. And very rich culture, very rich. There's a saying I remember from a long time ago that India is actually the richest country in the world in terms of culture and spirituality. Unfortunately, over time, mostly because of commerce, it's getting diluted, the values, that is, but it is getting richer financially. The economy is growing. One of the fastest growing economies. I doubt, as a skeptic, that politicians will spread the wealth and share much of that with the so-called untouchables, poorest of the poor, that are vast in numbers in outerlying areas of the city. But that's very unfortunate. But when I go there, I certainly enjoy the trip. I make an effort to see the sites that I want to see. Again, these are kind of once-in-a-lifetime trips that probably you want to put on your bucket list if you have any sense of it. It's not so much having a sense of adventure, if you have any interest in just learning about how is the world like and how do people live, and what do they deal with, and what are they faced with every day, and what are their daily lives like, and their daily stressors like outside of what you happen to see in your local community. You learn a lot about that. But I like to also help out the poor people, like I said, a little bit here and there as I go. Can't not do that. Can't let a child go without a meal. Conscience won't allow me to do it. So, anyways, I'll make some contributions. If that's getting a little heavy for you, like I said, Goa is a great fun place to go to. I think I went there. I don't recommend going by bus. Their so-called luxury buses are not what you're used to here, luxury buses. The best thing, what I did is I went by train. So much fun. From Bangalore to Goa by train. And reserve the whole train compartment for yourself. You can lie down, you can sleep. It's a good, classy way to travel. Yet you have so much outside of the window that you can see as you're going by. Like I said, so much of the countryside, the shanty towns, the poorer areas. You get good snacks, the best coffee I've ever had in my life to this day. Best to this day has been the coffee that they've given me on trains in India, which they give you. It doesn't sound intelligent. They give you in a stainless steel cup, and it's scalding hot. So you're trying to hold this thing, and you're burning your hands, but at the same time, the coffee is unbelievable. So there's a lot of fun experiences. There's a lot of fun experiences. But like I said, going back to having a little more of your vacation and your fun times, Goa is a great place, great food, everything that you could want, some of the best Chinese food, still quite inexpensive. Most of India's restaurants and drinks are very, 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 very cheap. Great beaches. If you want to be outdoors and you want to be in the ocean, Goa is a place to be. And also, again, you can learn about the Catholic and Portuguese history of that particular location. But I go to Goa now on every trip. I feel like it's my decompressing time and my giving myself some nature and a little bit of fun time with some good meals and a little bit of partying. That's just part of the trip for me now. So that is what I can offer you at this point. If with information about making a trip to India, I think it should be on everyone's bucket list, just to learn a little bit about what is the history of this country that's so bloody old, with a religion and spirituality that's so old. You don't have to make it your belief system, but it'd be nice to have a curiosity to learn a little bit about it. And I sure have that curiosity. So those are some tips for you on a trip that you can make. On a final note, mosquitoes, they do have cockroaches, they do have mosquitoes. They're seasonal for the most part. So you might want to plan your trip accordingly, the timing of it. We always go into winter season here, which is the more milder temperature there. Summer there in most places is unbearable for me, used to being in the U.S. on the West Coast. Temperature is well over 100 degrees on top of everything else there, then the pollution and so on is just unbearable. The mosquitoes, you have to take mosquito repellent, the strongest that you can get. You don't want chemicals. I know you want to go to Whole Foods and get the natural thing. You need the one with the DEET. You need the strongest fucking thing you can get. Those mosquitoes are big and they are vicious. They're like no mosquitoes I've ever encountered anywhere else. They love blood and they will suck them. They'll drain you dry. So, just something else to consider. I'm Jay Madhav. Happy travels. Enjoy your trip. Peace out.